Are you confused and overwhelmed about your role in all the craziness that is being a dad? Are you struggling to create the life you hope for? Are you looking for other dads to share your struggles and your triumphs? Or do you just need help waking up in the morning? This is the Wake Up Dad Show.
Hey Dad, this is Dr. Scott and I'm here with Dr. Ev, the co-host of the Wake Up Dad Show. Just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an update. You may have noticed that over the last little while the episodes have changed in frequency and duration and content and all kinds of different things. So just to give you guys an update on what's going on with this show, really exciting news that I've got Ev on board. I finally convinced him to become a co-host of the show, so we are going to be bringing you massive content and quality and up in the ante with this show in great expectations for the 2017 year. So just to give you guys an update, as you know, if you've been a faithful listener so far, the way the content of the shows have been is that on Tuesdays I would be doing an interview with a guest, and then on Mondays and Thursdays I would be doing a monologue situation where I'd give you guys some tips and strategies and coaching and stuff like that on how to be more awesome. But we're going to switch it up starting basically ASAP, but like putting it into high gear for 2017. It's going to be a massive year for the Wake Up Dad movement. So basically the idea is that myself and Evan are going to be co-hosting a show together on a once-a-week basis, and another episode through the week will be either myself or Ev or both of us doing an interview with somebody who is a very influential mover and shaker in the dad community to some description or another, interviewing people with the 5 P's of dadhood, you know, either reviewing and going deep into purpose, parenting, power, passion, or providing. So, Ev, what have you got to say?
That you're very well spoken, Scott. I don't really have anything.
I kind of took over there, didn't I?
Well, you know what? You're on a roll. I think you delivered it all. I just want to say to the dads out there, I'm really excited about what we can create. This is a modern dad movement. This is about making our best better, creating better families, creating strong legacies. This is a big movement. It's our time to finally step into, just the brilliance that we all have and really passing that down and just being the best we can. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, so we've already got a few amazing guests lined up for the next little bit to be doing some interviews with, and we're already strategizing and conniving for 2017 to make some amazing big changes with the Wake Up Dad movement, and also create some really cool stuff, some online stuff and even some experiential stuff, some sort of getting together dadhood tribal craziness somewhere in the middle of nowhere in like Central America or something crazy like that, guys. So stay tuned for that. We are super excited to get this stuff going and pumping in the next little while.
Absolutely.
So we'll get started with the episode for this week, guys. But we thought we'd give you a little bit of an update. So let's get ready with the show. Hey Dad, and welcome to another episode of the Wake Up Dad Show. This show is dedicated to you, the dad who wants more success, time, health, fitness, connection, passion, and all-around awesomeness. I'm your host, Dr. Scott, and I have with me on the line the brand new, awesome co-host, Dr. Ev. Ev's on the line.
Hello. Welcome, Dad.
And on today's episode, it's called, What the Hell Are You Eating? And I think we were just talking in the pre-show a little bit about it, and it's sort of we came up with the title for today's episode because of something that some Ev's kids come home sometimes and ask him. They literally say something along those lines. It's like, what are the kids in my class eating? Because they're educated to what real food is and what rubbish is. So why don't you tell them that story to get us started, Ev?
Yeah, so it's been a journey with our kids, and we're really upfront about the truth about the foods that a lot of their friends are eating, and and so my daughter Liv came home one day, and there's this one girl specific in her class, and she tells me, like, this girl, everything in her lunchbox is in packages. It's all packaged food, and she said, don't her parents know better? And the parent is actually one of the teachers in the school, and she's like, she's supposed to be a teacher, doesn't she realize what she's giving her daughter? And in a way, it's I'm proud of her, but I feel very sad for the girl that she's being raised in a home where the parents, for whatever reason, they don't have that knowledge base, and it's I don't know about you, Scott, but I could go back to when I grew up. When I was turned 13, I ended up living with my dad, and we were like two bachelors basically living together. And I went and got groceries, and I thought it was pretty cool because you just give me money and I just buy whatever I wanted to buy, and that's when I was like really experimenting with some of those like quote unquote fun foods like fruit roll-ups and this kind of stuff. And you know what, like it just really isn't food, and I didn't really feel good eating that food, and it didn't really last that long. But some of these kids are eating these foods over an extended period of time. So what we really want to do is just highlight some of the things that maybe just habit and haven't really been questioned. It's like, well, we haven't even thought of thinking differently because no one's really pointed out some of the facts or really some of the impacts of doing things this way. And I thought, well, the first thing we'd start out talking about is neural programming. Sounds like a very technical term, but you want to explain a little bit about that, Scott?
Well, yeah, before we get into that, I just want to go backwards just a little bit in a couple of things you said, and I think it's really, really important to understand the idea between common versus normal, right? A lot of people in today's world make the mistake to think that because something is common, that it's then normal or it's a healthy process, right? And it's gotten to the point where things like diabetes, obesity, heart disease, these are just terms and conditions and things that we just throw around now and go, oh, yeah, because they're so common that we don't almost understand or comprehend the dire changes that are happening in people's bodies to make this happen. And it does. It comes back to us being unconscious about it. We toyed around with the name of this show being called the Wake Up Food Show because it's the same thing. A lot of unconscious things that we're doing, and that's where this neuroprogramming comes in that you mentioned a minute ago. The idea that the things that we say to our kids over and over and over are really, really important. I'm sure you guys have heard that concept of when you're teaching your kids things, they will do what you do, not what you say. And I do believe that that's very true, but I do believe something that we say to our kids over and over and over, or do to our kids over and over and over, is where those real lessons come in. We may want to teach our kids a lesson and be very conscious about it, but it's really the unconscious things we do, which is basically this neuroprogramming, like the idea, if you tell your kid, or you're out and about and you're like, hey Susie, you want a treat? And they're like, yeah. And what do we give them? We don't give them an apple. We don't give them an orange. No. We don't give them a banana or a piece of celery. It's like ice cream or candy or chocolate. And so we're telling our kids that that's the treat, the food that's bad for us, right? It's so backwards. And it's really, again, important. Guys out there, dads out there listening, get mums to listen to this show as well, guys, because this is a a combined front when it comes to helping out with the kids. But have that think about, what are we telling our kids on a consistent basis? Because that's where they're going to develop their habits in life.
Exactly. We really think about it. It's creating a reward system around unhealthy, sugary, or fatty, or salty food. And when I say fatty, let's just distinguish, there are good and bad fats, and we just trust that the treats are usually going to be bad fats. So yeah, we're creating a reward system when the child ends up connecting the dots between, I do something good and I treat myself with something essentially that's unhealthy, that is actually going to move them in the opposite direction of probably what we want as a parent as far as our health is concerned. And and some parents might actually just kind of shake this off and be like, oh no, it's not that big of a deal, but it is a big deal. And Scott, I don't know if you can relate, but and I don't have all the studies right at my fingertips or anything, but just eating sugar, for example, can have a huge impact on the immune system, for extended period of time. And that's just like a dose of refined sugar, for example, not to mention what it does to blood sugars and affecting their moods and their ability to focus and all these different things. So it's not something to really just like shake off and be like, oh, it's not a big deal. I remember one time, so when I was in practice as a chiropractor, I had a conversation with a woman, and she was doing this, having this treat conversation with her daughter. And her daughter was probably at the time, I think she was probably around, I'm going to guess about 6 or 7 years old. And she was at least 20 pounds overweight. So this is a significant amount of weight for that age. And and I noticed this pattern. So I just, brought it up with the parent, and she actually got really defensive, and that, no, like she needs treats. And it made me question, like, okay, so I'm wondering if she's just passing the baton, and that this is how she was raised, and that she felt that this is something that is just how it's done. And the mom that was also quite a bit overweight as well. And so it's really, maybe nobody has ever taken the time to really have her reassess this conversation, because this conversation is like a baton passing conversation, which can make a huge difference in someone's life. And actually, Scott, you made a great point about not just the reward system, but the manipulation system. If you want to speak about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is, don't get me wrong out there, dads. I think we've all done this before. We've all done it at some point in the past. And this bribing, get the kids to do what you want to do by bribing them with a treat. And it's a little bit different than just offering up treats and then offering them bad foods, but it has the same concept. It's like, oh, well, when I'm good, I'll get a quote-unquote treat, which is actually really bad for me. And so it sets up a whole scenario when we do things for the wrong reasons. And like I said, guys, dads out there listening, don't get me wrong, and I can't speak for Evan, but I'd be pretty certain that he's bribed his kids once or twice before in the past. and so have I, right? So I'm not saying that this is, we're perfect and that's, we're saying bad dad. But we've got to just be aware and be conscious, wake up to the fact that it's okay to do it periodically, but if it becomes a habit, and same thing with want a treat, like this lady of yours, this ex-patient of yours who said that, she needs treats. It's just the way it is, right? That's unconscious, right? That's bucking the horse in the wrong way. That is just not where things should be. And so like it's for her it would need to be, hey, wake up, mom. Not wake up, dad in this case. Wake up, mom. Like, really?
Yeah.
Do they need treats? And so treats are there. Hey, we all love treats. You know, isn't it funny how we love the things that are bad for us? It's just, and maybe it's because we grew up the same way. You know, like I'll give you an example. My little one, she eats better than anybody I know. Like she is a spectacular eater, and it's because we raised her that way. And we almost, I can't believe, and you've probably had this too, Ev, so many times where we say something, you know, I don't know, she could have been 4 years old before she had a piece of chocolate or something. I can't remember exactly what age, but it was a long time before she had any sort of treats whatsoever, and she had no idea. But how many times would you hear from parents like that look of absolute shock and horror? Your kid hasn't had chocolate yet? It's like I just said, I cut off my daughter's arm this morning. You know, it's the same look, and it's like, are you kidding me? Like, are you like really blaming me, and you're looking down on me like I'm a bad parent because I did this? It's you're gonna face this, Dad, out there if you decide for yourself it's important enough to make some shifts and changes where you put your kids' health first, because I'm all one for self-responsibility. I'm really a big one on that, and I very much try not blame other people or other circumstances from my situation, because yes, things can happen to me, but it's how I deal with them that's up to me. But when I say that, it's not really, it doesn't hold water when your kids are young, because you are making the choice for your kids when they're young, because they have no idea, and that's what it is to be a dad, to make those hard choices sometimes, to step up and be a man and make some hard choices. And you know what? Sometimes your kids are going to hate you for it. Plain and simple.
Yeah. And I think, like, the way I feel about it is like, for example, like my kids have never had soda pop before. And I don't know what you call it over there, but, you know, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, you know, soda, that sort of thing. Like, they just never have tried it. And
what?
You know,
are you crazy?
Yeah, I know, it's terrible. And not only that, but you know, at Halloween time, so we do the whole thing. You know, we go down the street and they like load up their bags and they're running from house to house, and you know, and they get all dressed up, and it's a lot of fun for them. They hand out the candies and the whole thing. But when they come in, we say, okay, guys, like you can have 3, and then that's it. And then we get rid of the rest. And we've done that from day one. You know, they just have the 3, and we give the rest of it away to some poor soul that, you know, ends up consuming that stuff. But
poor soul in
again,
numerous ways.
Yeah, and really, like, and just we just don't want them to have it. And it's you know, it's interesting. The other day I was at the schoolyard, and this parent was telling me how, you know, they let their kids just bow down on the candy, and they told the kids, you are this is going to make you sick. Like, if you eat all this candy, it's going to make you sick. And sure enough, like 4 or 5 days later, all of her kids were sick. And they weren't just sick for a day. Like, they were down, and like their immune system was out, and they had a full blown process happening in their bodies, and it was lasting like 5 or 6 days, which in a family can really, really rock, you know, a family dynamic. When we got, I think she had 3 kids. Could you imagine?
Well, I mean, how many times
all of them sick at the same time? Like,
how often do you hear it though too? So like one kid got sick, and that was for a week, and then right at the end of the week, the next kid got sick because they passed it to the next one, and then passed it to mom, and then passed it to dad. Like, someone in the family will be sick for 2 months, like passed on from one to the other to the other.
One to the other, yeah. And I'm thinking, like, okay, this is a self-inflicted, you know, self-inflicted thing that really didn't need to happen, and the parent knew it. parent knew it was coming.
Mm.
And you know, like, think about that. Like, the parent knew that they were giving the kid the right to go and eat it, and said, you know, I'm gonna. And it was almost like teaching them a lesson in a way. I don't know if they learned a lesson there, but you know, it's almost like trying to teach them a lesson that this is going to make you sick, and the reality is that it does. So, you know, that's something that's one of those hard choices, because their friends are not getting just 3 candies. Most of them are getting to eat all of their candy, and they're spreading it out, and they're eating a little bit every day for sometimes a month or 2 months.
Oh, I remember hoarding it. I remember I used to go out like a pillowcase, and the thing would be full by the end of the night. It was crazy. We were running from door to door, see how much we could get, and I honestly don't remember exactly what my parents did. I'm sure they did some type of limitation, but I was that kid who would just, like, it would last easily till Christmas, like, because I just space it out. But it's just an insult.
And then you get it.
And then you get Christmas. And then Christmas
and then
would
you get
last,
a whole new dosage.
Yeah, and then Christmas would last, say, January, February, and then you got Easter. Easter's another massive one.
Yep, totally. Huge.
What's the next one?
Yeah. They're well spaced.
They are well spaced out.
They're really well spaced, yeah. And let's just...
Go ahead.
Do you want to talk about Skittles?
But just before we talk about Skittles, guys, I hope you're not getting from us, like, we're not trying to chastise anyone out there who's doing this. We're trying to just wake you up, because this has become, like I was saying earlier, it's become so common that it seems to be normal. And you know what else is so common in today's world that seems to be normal? Fat kids.
Yeah.
And kids with diabetes. And kids with heart disease. There's kids 12 years old who are being diagnosed with heart disease. It's absolutely heartbreaking. And in reality, it's not their fault at this stage. Your 12-year-old is diagnosed with some kind of major issue like that. It's not their fault.
Yeah. And you know what? It's and for a lot of, you know, just to really kind of add to what you're saying about, you know, this is about creating awareness. This is about educating, because for the most part, the adults, they don't actually realize the impact. They don't actually realize that, you know, that it's these little choices, like what we're talking about today. So far, we've wrapped the show around treats, communication around treats, manipulation with treats, and Halloween candy. And this may seem like, okay, I'm investing my time listening to this podcast, and they're not really covering a lot of content here. However, it's these little things right here that add up and make a huge difference. And we're just going to, you know, consistency of listening to this podcast over time, you are going to learn so much that that can really change the health footprint of your children. And you may be able to make an impact of those people around you by pointing them to this information so that they can listen to it as well. So, yeah.
Yeah,
so I want to talk about it.
Yeah, let's. We discussed this last time with thinking about Skittles is like, well, our Skittles conversation is really the same idea, really going on along with the rest of the show, is about this idea of a treat. And so, why don't you start out with it, Ev?
Okay, so most people are familiar with Skittles, and we actually had on our street, we had 4 or 5 houses that were sponsored by Skittles, and they had done the houses up, and there was literally thousands of people and they opened it up over a 4-day period. They had hours of operation, and they had people handing out bags of Skittles. And so my kids each got a bag of Skittles. And when you really think about it, like when you open it up, like that Skittle is orange. And it's not an orange. It's an orange Skittle. Like, how does it get to be orange?
How do they make
and
every orange
yeah,
Skittle the same orange? Like it's exactly
same
the
orange,
same and the same
exactly
red.
the same. Yeah, same red, and it's not just like a boring red. It's like an amazing red, and that's an amazing orange. Like every color in that package is amazing.
It's a
Like
rainbow of fruit flavors.
it is a rainbow of fruit flavors, and it makes me want to eat them.
Absolutely, and they smell
Yeah,
amazing.
they smell amazing, and oh my goodness! And when you chew them, you notice how you like your cheeks kind of, and then it's just like so much like juice just starts to flow because they're just so yummy.
Can you? My juice is
I
starting
can
to flow
taste.
right now.
I think I'm gonna go eat those Skittles. I know where they are. Yeah, but like, but what we're getting at is that those colors, they're all artificial colors, and the companies do this because artificial colors are the cheapest way to make a product that's identical. And because natural coloring is actually, it's an expensive process, and very few companies will go through this direction because there is variation, and it's expensive. Versus artificial coloring is inexpensive and there's no variation. So you get an identical product which consumers like, and hence we have a product like Skittles. Now, the challenge is, and it's not just Skittles that we're talking about here, like M&Ms, and there's tons of different products that, and we could, cover a lot of different products if we actually thought about it before we did the show. But there's, I'm sure it'll come to us as we're talking. We can give you a few ideas of things to avoid. But basically what's happened is they've combined artificial coloring, and what's inside of Skittle is the majority of it is sugar. So it's just like combining artificial coloring and sugar into a product, and kids are eating these by the handful, and they literally, they sent these out to thousands of people.
Well,
and yeah, go ahead.
And it can sound quite just not important. Oh well, what's a bit of artificial color and a bit of sugar, whatever. But I don't have any studies in front of me at the moment, but I have seen studies related in the past around these colors being, some of them being carcinogenic, some of them having cancer-causing properties to them, and so it's not just it's just a little treat every now and again. And if it is every now and again, and by every now and again doesn't mean like every second day, a treat should be just that, a treat, something that we give to ourselves and our kids on a sporadic basis. There's no set number to it, but if it's more than once a week, it's not a treat.
Yeah, and as a parent, this is something that we have done, and our kids seem to respect it, and these are non-negotiables. So if I was to read a ingredient list and I see on there red color, how do they term it? It's like red and then it's a number.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a non-negotiable. It's off the table. They can't have it. Okay, and the reason is just like what Scott said. This is, it's linked to lots of problems. Parents, one of the greatest. I mean, agree or disagree. One of the biggest challenges for parents on a daily basis is your child's moods. Would you agree or disagree?
Say that again. What?
One of the greatest challenges for a parent is our child's moods.
Oh, moods. I thought you said your child's boots. It's like, what? Yes, I totally agree. Their boots are very important.
Totally agree, right? So, yeah, and so it's like, and parents are, banging their head up against the wall. How come my kid won't listen and behave, and why are they flying off the walls and all that? And a lot of times it's actually, and I'm going to put it out there, Scott, that I'm going to put it up there at about 70 to 80% of the reason why a child would be misbehaving or difficult, or their moods are off and so on, is going to be what they're eating.
Oh, I would put it up extremely, extremely high. It's incredible the changes that can occur, and I've seen it in so many families who've decided to, do a more natural type of eating. And so let's give a few just practical tips that dads can start using. Like, I mean, as usual, we could have gone into so many other topics, and I think we will as time goes on. Like specifically a whole episode on sugar, specifically a whole episode on grains and their effect, specifically a whole episode on how we are being bribed ourselves into thinking certain things are important for you. I'll give you like an example: cereal in the morning. How many people out there have heard that breakfast is the most important meal of the day? Right?
Yeah.
Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. You got to have it. It's like, who made that up?
Yeah.
I bet you the cereal companies made that saying up. Because food is food. It actually has been proven time and time again. It doesn't necessarily matter when you eat it. You got to have a certain amount of food to survive, and the better food, the better you're going to survive. But it doesn't matter when you eat it. It doesn't matter if you have it at 7 a.m. or 9 a.m. or, as time goes on, I'm sure we'll talk about certain different ways to eat, like intermittent fasting and paleo diet and ketogenic diet and all kinds of different things that we will get into as time goes on with this show. But so here's my biggest sort of easiest practical tip, guys. If you are you're out looking at food and you're not quite sure when it comes to food, there's an old saying that says, if it's got a barcode on it, it's not real food. Right? So if it's got lists of ingredients and barcodes, then that's not real, right? And that's what you want to start to get back to, is the idea of eating real food. Now, what is real food? It's fruits, it's vegetables, it's meat, it's nuts, it's seeds, right? For the most part, we want to be eating real food. And then from there, we can supplement. Like both myself and Evan are big supplemental fans because of the nutritional density of soil and all kinds of things that, again, we'll probably get into in more episodes as we go on. But, the basis of a real diet, of getting as healthy as possible, is eating, for me, it's vegetables. I'm not a vegetarian, and I don't agree necessarily specifically with vegetarianism, but vegetables should be a massive part of your diet. So that's sort of my one sort of easy practical tip. Think of just be awake, be aware of what you're putting into your mouth and be conscious of it. A really great way to sort of get an idea, because there was a study done that people were videotaped in their kitchen on exactly what they ate. And so the videotape, people would scribe down, they would look at the person and watch what they were eating and write it down in a diary, the people who were watching the video. And the people who were being videoed did the same thing. They wrote down what they ate for the whole week, knowing that they were being videoed. And the difference in what they thought they ate, or what they wrote down that they ate, and what they actually ate, which was videoed and documented, was hugely different. Because people are completely unconscious. They'll go to the fridge and have a soda and a chocolate bar and not write it down, because they're just like, well, that's just so normal for me. That's what I do. Right? So really waking up to that. And I think a food diary is a good place to start as well. And what you are getting at the grocery store is a really good tip. Because for me, I don't know about you, Ev, but I'm not real proud of this, but if there's junk around, I'll probably eat it because it tastes good. Yeah. And you get those fleeting moments of, oh man, I'm just hungry. Oh, look at that. Ooh, there it is. Go out and buy a treat when you want it, but go out and buy it specifically and just for that amount. Like, don't go buy the value pack of Oreos,
Yeah.
right? If you want a
Yeah.
treat, go out and buy a chocolate bar, and take the time and effort and conscious awareness to go out and buy that one chocolate bar and then enjoy the hell out of that chocolate bar. Right? Like, don't beat yourself up for that, but be aware of how much of it is you're eating. How about you?
Yeah.
Have you got any some practical tips for dads out there?
Well, I think you mentioned it earlier, and it's that we model what our kids are going to do. So that's really important. It's I find that a lot of people will make the changes when they realize that they're passing the baton, and that really, the majority of health challenges that people have, and they say, oh, it's hereditary. It's the greatest factor is actually the environment. Yes, genetics play a role, but it's our environment that really causes the expression of the gene to occur. And so if we really want to change, they call it like epigenetics, which is an expression of our genes. We do that through our choices. Epigenetics is impacted by our choices, which impacts our overall expressions of our genes. So, so it really puts the power back in our hands. That's what I'm trying to say, is that we can really make a huge difference in the generations to come. And I'm all for dads basically turning the channel, so to speak. I think for the most part, and we mentioned this on the first show, is that dads were really essentially breadwinners. And and I think about my dad, and that was his role, and he didn't play a role in health decisions. Nutrition was not anything like that he really had much of a focus on. Like, he just ate, chicken, potatoes, and peas every day. Like, it was like pretty straightforward, and there wasn't a whole lot of knowledge or education there. And I think that things have changed so much, and dads are really become domesticated in a sense, where they're playing more of a role, and they're and they're making decisions, and you might be in a situation where your spouse just happened to be in an environment where there was things that were being said and done, and they were modeled in a way that is not going to be ideal for the health of your kids. And so this is where you can collaborate and share and really and perhaps make some of these changes for yourself, so your kids are going to model what you're doing and see you as an example. That's one of the things that is so key, because even if you told your kids or tried to educate them on the truth around sugar or food colorings or whatever it may be, meanwhile you're eating it, well, it's a waste of your time. Like, they're just gonna say, they know that you're full of it, right? And they're just gonna do it because you do it. And so we really have to be in alignment with what we're trying to achieve, and and so food choices is really no different. So I think that's one of the things, and echoing Scott, it's really it's the choices that we're making, and we're looking at putting food on the table that is green. It's like leafy greens and that sort of stuff, and and having protein sources on our plate, and having some variety in our diet and that sort of thing. That's really key. So I think as this show evolves, Scott, I'm realizing there's so many topics that I'm really excited to share with the audience, and I know we're gonna keep it to a certain amount of time. But I just can see that there's going to be a lot of value coming out of our mouths here in the weeks to come.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, as we just have a chat here, there's about 7 different episodes that we've got planned out now. We're not going to come out with 7 food episodes in a row because that's going to be, frankly, in my opinion, a little bit boring. So we're gonna space it out a little bit. But if you guys do have any questions or anything, then get a hold of us. Look us up on we're everywhere. We're on Facebook and Instagram and our websites and blah blah blah. All those things. But yeah, just if you do have any specific questions that we weren't able to answer on the show, then get a hold of us, and then that may actually spark up more interest for more episodes into the future. So we'll wrap it up for today. We're just about running out of time here. Is there any final words that you wanted to say to the dads out there for the show, Ev?
I would say, be bold, speak boldly, tell the truth with the kids, and step into making some changes, for yourself, for your kids that are, I would just take it one step at a time. And, I think that's the most fun is when I am completely, honestly, it's not even a word, but it's just so truthful with them about what like this food is. This is not food. Okay, this is garbage. I just tell them this right here. This is garbage. You want to put garbage in your body, you're going to have a garbage body. I just tell them the truth. You put garbage in, that's what you get. And they look at it and they push it away. No thanks. It really makes a difference. So be bold, share the truth, and make some changes, even if it's just one small change.
And that can be the dad work for this episode, guys, is to be bold. And I think knowing what you're being bold about. So again, the whole concept of the show is wake up. So wake up to your unconsciousness and just see where you might be basically doing some of the things that we talked about in the show. Is like, how often are these treats coming out? How often are we bribing our kids? How often are they eating rubbish? When, like, every now and again is going to happen, and that's, part of being a human being, I think. But when it becomes a consistent habit, that's when we can really get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, absolutely.
So dads, remember an ancient proverb once said, for a man to achieve his dreams, he must first wake up. Dad, you're not alone. This is your wake-up call. We're in this together, all for one and one for all.
Do you want to know more about the Wake Up Dad movement? Go to www.thewakeupdadshow.com to download any and all past issues of the show. Claim your free gift. Continue the conversation on the Facebook group Wake Up Dad. Share this podcast with other dads on iTunes or Google Play. Make sure to subscribe to the show and give us a rating so we can reach more dads. And dads, one last thing. Wake up!